Hello, everyone. My name is Leonard Jones. I'm the director of the Christ for All Nations School of Worship, and I wanted to thank you for getting this free video lesson. This is a lesson teaching you how to play one of my recent songs that I wrote with Jose Diaz and Dustin Horne, and then Jose's wife, Dana. I also used part of a Cfan song in this video. And basically, the song is performed by 5 of my very closest friends that I have been playing with for years. And they are some of the best players in the whole world that I've ever played with and that I've ever heard. And what they do are they're going to break down this song into every component. And you're going to learn how to play the guitar part. If you're a guitar player, if you're a drummer, you can learn the drum part. It's just a good way to learn, and this is actually the format that we will be using in our school at Cfan. So I hope that you enjoy this and that really blesses you, and when you finish, you will actually realize that you have learned something that's valuable.
Lies like a rose resting high above the thorns. Your love abides like a tree that outshines all the rest in the forest. You hide me, delight me with your love. I am my beloved's and it's calling me to be by your side. Embrace me, awake me, come my desire. I am my beloved's and he is mine. His banner over me is love. I am my beloved's and he his
Hello, my name's Dave Beagle, and we're going to talk a little bit about my guitar parts on Leonard Jones's song, Beloved. Before we jump into the song, let's talk a little bit about gear. I am playing my trusty 1964 Fender Stratocaster. I've been using this guitar for a lot of years, and I like other guitars, but this is kind of my go-to guitar, and it really fit Leonard's song very well. For most of the tracks, for most of the parts I'm doing, I'm just using the middle pickup. And for some of the lead stuff, I go to the neck pickup there. So we got this sound. Middle pickup, neck pickup. And so gear-wise, what I'm going through is I'm using a wah pedal for the B section of the verse. And I've got the full tone wah, and then I'm going into a vintage MXR Dynacomp, which is set for the lowest compression level, and the volume's all the way up. I leave that on all the time just as kind of a general tone shaper and adding just a slight bit of compression. Then I'm going into a MXR, it's called a bass compressor. They have the same version out now that's called the Studio Compressor. And it's kind of modeled after a Yuri 1176 style studio compressor. So I'm using that for more of a compression sound. For the distortion parts or the more gainy sections of the song, I'm using a Rothwell Hellbender. And then at that point I take that compressor off, and you've got so it's just adding just a little bit of gain. So it's pretty clean. And then that's all going through my volume pedal, which I use a lot. And then from there I'm going into the, got my tuner there. And I'm going into line 6 M9, which I'm using for a little bit of reverb. So here's the dry sound. There's a little bit of reverb. And then I've got a quarter note delay with kind of electro-harmonics, kind of analog with a little bit of modulation, giving it a bit of stereo imaging on that. And for one part of Leonard's song at the end of the chorus, I use this delay as well, which gives me kind of a long, it's interacting with the other delay in a different time with a little bit of a swing just to kind of give it a little bit more kind of interaction between the delays that changes as the repeats go on. So that's kind of my guitar setup here. And then for amps, I'm running stereo through a Vox AC30 and kind of set that up for pretty much a straight up clean with just a little bit of compression on it. And then I'm also running through a Silver Mountain SM35 amplifier, which is a boutique amplifier. Really like it a lot. That one has two 10-inch speakers, and it uses two EL34 tubes. And I'm setting that pretty much similar to the Vox, where they both have just a little bit of gain on them, but it's more compression when you strike the notes hard, so you can play softly and it's super clean, dig in, and it kind of compresses a little bit along with my compressor pedal. So that's the gear I'm using. Why don't we jump in and talk about my approach to the song? All right, so let's look at the song, and I'll give you my thoughts on not only the parts I played, but why I played the parts that I played. So Leonard has this real cool guitar riff that happens in the verse, which if we just broke it down in its simplest form is just a C chord, an E flat chord, and an F chord. So you actually have a key change going from the C major to the E flat. So you're changing your note E to an E flat, which is a cool little key change. In this case, I didn't really want to do much in either verse. So what I was doing in the beginning of the song was pretty much just doing some volume swells. So that's what I do there is I play a note and then I turn it up with the volume knob. And I was doing that with my wah pedal and just doing. And then I was following the chord progression a little bit, C, and then going to that note for the E flat, flat for the F, then back to there for the C, and then I think I went E flat, F, C. So that's what I did on the first verse. And then when we get to the B section, Leonard plays a D minor, an E minor, and an F chord. And he does some fairly complex voicings, a lot of 9s and some 11s. So he's playing a D minor, and I think he's playing a D minor 9 or a D minor 11. So there's a chord that I use a lot in this song. It's actually one of my favorite chords to use. And if I defined it as an E chord, it would look like this. So here's the E minor 11. That works great as a starting point to describe it as a guitar player, so you can hear that low E string. So if I define the intervals of this chord, you've got the root, the fifth, there's the minor third, there's the 4, the flat 7, and the 9. And in some ways you can think of it as kind of like a D chord with an E in the bass. And it also has this suspended, like a G suspended 2 with it. The thing that's cool about this chord is if I moved it up 12 frets and played it up there, same chord, if I move it down 3 frets, that takes that same voicing and turns it into a major 9. So you have the E minor 11 or the E major 9. The chord itself doesn't change, it's basically the bass note that changes. So what I'm doing, not only on the B section, but on the chorus, is I'm using that voicing a lot. So when we get to the D minor chord that he's doing, I'm doing just this part of it. So that would be the E minor, move it down 2 frets. So I'm just playing that as the D minor 11, which that chord is actually the same as an F major 9 with a D in the bass, so it can get kind of complicated sounding, but it's not really once you start using it. So there's my D minor, my E minor 7th, and I'm just doing this little partial of it. And then the next chord is an F major 9, which I decided to use this voicing. And so there's a straight F chord, major 7, major 9. So I'm thinking that is just a variation of that C form bar chord. And I'm just doing the wah pedal stuff on that. So that's what I'm doing on the B section. Both B sections I do the same thing. Then we go to the chorus, which is an F minor, G minor, A flat major, F minor, G minor, D minor, and then that repeats F minor, G minor, A flat major, F minor, G minor, and then an A flat to a G sixth chord. So here's what I'm using for the F minor, that chord that we just talked about. So there's the bass note, then the G minor, and then when we go to the A flat major 7, I go back to this chord, but now that's my bass note. So it's the same thing that I did for the F, but since the A flat's in the bass now, it turns that into an A flat major 9. So basically I'm playing F minor 11, G minor 11, A flat major 9, and then same 2 chords, F minor, G minor, and then for the D minor 9, I'm doing this one because I wanted the voicing to go there up to a higher voicing on that chord. So that D minor 9, if we think of it as, there's my D minor chord, there's my minor third, there's the octave goes down to the flat 7, minor third, the 5 of the D minor goes down to the 4, which makes it the 11, there's the octave that goes down to the flat 7. So technically this is just a suspended chord. You put the D in the bass and that turns that into a D minor 11. And then at the end of the song it goes, This is the chord that I play for the G6. So there's the bass note. So in relation to G, I have, there's the 2, there's the 4, there's the root note, and then the open E string is the 6. So my part in the chorus is going to be this, 3, 4. And when I get to the last chord is when I hit my other delay pedal so I can get and have that kind of just sustain out and fade out as it comes back into the verse groove. And then when we get back to the verse, what I do is I shut off my delay and he's back to the, and I'm just doing a couple little fills. And so I'm kind of thinking of that is kind of a C major pentatonic type of sound, but I'm giving it a little bit of blues instead of going bending up to the major third of that. If you hear that sound, it's so I start with a little bit of that, more of the flat 3 into that. And then I'm following the chords. There's my F, and then ending on the C chord when he's back to C. And then for the second verse, I'm doing nothing for the first line of the vocals, and then I just go. I play just a C chord when he comes back to the C, and then I put a little harmonic of the top note of the C chord, that G there. I just move it up 12 frets, so I'm at the 15th fret, and with my thumb, I pluck the note, and with my index finger, I put it right over the top of the fret to get that harmonic of that. Gotta have my delay on. So that just adds kind of a little chimey thing right there. And then when he gets to the F, I just play the F chord, suspended, resolve the suspension, and then back to the C again. Then when we get to the next chorus, it's exactly the same as the first chorus, except it's a double chorus. So when he ends the first half of the chorus, he just goes back to the C chord, and I just go up to here to a high C power chord right there, which you could define it as part of the D shape of playing that C chord right there. And I'm just put on the distortion and go. So my second chorus is going to be this, 3, 4. So when it goes back to the C at the end of the first half of the chorus, I'm just playing that C chord. So it's kind of like a C open chord, but to give it more of a rock power chord thing, what I do is I just lift up the middle finger and I'm just muting the D string, which is the same voicing as this, same intervallic design, but this sound is has a little bit bigger sound because of the open G string, and that note's a bit brighter than this tone. So sometimes I'll voice my fingerings based off the tone I want. Because if you play a note up higher on a lower string, it's going to be thicker and fatter sounding. If you play the same note you know, very dark, very bright. Every place you play that C note is going to give you a different tone. So sometimes I'll choose that voicing, sometimes I'll choose that voicing, sometimes I'll choose that, which is fat and not very twangy sounding. So then we go into the bridge. Then we basically have an E flat with an F in the bass to a B flat with an F in the bass. So if I put the bass in, and then we just go to an, I'm sorry, that was an E flat to a B flat, and then to an F with the C in the bass, C with the C in the bass. So what I'm doing right there is I'm just playing the triads of that, and it's pretty much the same voicing I think that Leonard's playing. And I add my distortion thing, take off my compression, and then I have this. And then it goes to an F, it's an F chord with the G in the bass to C. And what I wanted to do was just give it a little more rock and roll sound, so I just did power chords G. And then I just did a little fill at the, when it brought back to that C chord, because there was a space when the vocals were done and nothing was going on there, so I thought, that's a great place to put a little guitar fill. So the first fill I did was this, which is kind of where I started with the, in between the verse, the first chorus and then to the second verse. The second time, I just did that, which is just a 5 to the root note. And then the third fill I did was, once again, fitting into the C major pentatonic scale. So my bridge part is going to sound like this, 3, 4. So at the end of the bridge, it adds this E flat to D, and I just wanted to kind of open that up and let the other instruments have a little more space. So I just did octaves, and then it goes to a D flat major 7, and I just did that voicing. So it's basically taking a power chord, which is 1, 5, 1, lowering the octave down a half step to the major 7. So it's a fairly clear voicing of a major 7 that left room for the other instruments to have a little more complexity into that. Then we're on to the funky bridge, which I really wanted Leonard's guitar to shine. So what I'm doing, I take the delay off. I think I have the compression on, not distortion. Leonard's just doing what I like to call the Jimi Hendrix chord, which is a C7 sharp 9. Intervallically, you have the 1, 3, flat 7, and then the sharp 9. There's the regular 9, there's the sharp 9. So that's kind of the vibe that Leonard's doing. And so I wanted to just leave space and just do some kind of funky rhythmic stuff. So I just was kind of hanging out on this C note and adding wop. I guess I did my delay on. Occasionally I'd add a little, just a little high octave or that. And then second half of that funky bridge, he goes to an F chord. And so I just did the F octaves. And occasionally I would go, just lead into that root note with the flat 7. And on the F, the first time I just added that little pull off that's kind of still based off of that kind of a C blues pentatonic scale. So my bridge is just going to be this. Then we go to the F. And part of my technique is I'm kind of keeping that 16th thing going. And I've got my mute going on here with my left hand. So when I'm playing a single, when I want the note to sound, I'm picking all 6 strings. And then I'm lifting up. I could go and sustain it, or I can go by just lifting up the pressure. And move it over to the F, which is much funkier than going. You know, having just a single note versus. That's where the funk starts to happen, is when you're really getting rhythm going on with the note versus single note. And I build that bridge by the first time doing the single note on the F, the second time doing an octave on the F, and then when we get back to the C, the last time, I'm starting to add the octave. Instead of playing that, I'm having that. And at the end of the bridge, I kind of do a build. And then we're back into the chorus. So I stop the kind of the shortness of it, and I go to a sustained sound, so I'm not lifting up in between. I'm just going to. So the last chorus is the exact same as the first chorus, which then leads us to the very end of the song, where we're kind of vamping out on the intro chords. And so I just laid out on any chords, and I just did a couple fills. I don't remember what I did. Something like that, based off that pentatonic scale. And then I went. So I'm thinking C minor, and as opposed to a C major pentatonic, I'm going more with the bluesy sound of the minor pentatonic. So I've got that pentatonic there. Just hit that chord, the C minor chord, down, and then up to the higher voicing of that chord. So I'm thinking, there's my C minor chord there at the 15th fret. And then I've got a pentatonic scale here. And I go to the neck pickup for this. And that's it. There's the song.
All right. First of all, this is Hammond organ. I think this is a C3 model. B3 is usually what they use for a lot of black gospel music or rock and roll. And up here, these are called drawbars. I like to move the drawbars around while I'm playing because it gives me different tones and different sounds. The lower drawbars are kind of your more bassier tones, but then they start getting a little more in the, I don't know if the word sharper, and then the very treble sounding ones are up here. And many times when I'm trying to play like a lot of in between and background, I'll leave the highs off because they give me a better sound as far as filling in. For this song, I tried to listen to what the keyboard player was playing and then tried to complement and add some. With some of the runs that I did, I don't know if you'd call it a kind of a bluesy jazz. I guess I call it just playing the organ, but anyway, a lot of times the runs that I would use, you can go down the run. Turn that down just a little bit. You can go down the run, and then, and your Leslie turns the fan and the Leslie on and off. It's called the tremolo, or I think that's how you pronounce it. And when you turn it from off to on, you can hear it speed up. And when you're playing a note, you can play a note and when it slows down. And if you're playing a nice chord, what happens is it just has a really nice effect. And a lot of times when I slide up the keyboard and play some high notes, I'll have it on versus off, because on is when it's going fast, off is when it's going slow. The Hammond has an innate ability to just have that full sound that kind of adds all the in-between stuff. There are organists that play the Hammond by itself, but really what I was doing here is I was complementing the keyboard player as he would play, and I would try to go in between where he was going. Throughout the song, there's certain parts that would repeat. So some of the songs, or some of the parts of the song that repeated, I might do the same thing, but then the next time around switch it up so it adds variety and adds a little bit of spice to the song. Anytime, it has a volume control too. I tried not to touch that because we were recording, but your volume control can bring it down and then bring it back up to have a more effect on the recording, or if you're playing for a service or a worship team. One of the main things about the Hammond is it kind of sets a mood in the song that you're playing. And so I try to find that mood and I try to fill in. On the last time we recorded it, I did mostly one finger notes with runs and then a few chords in between. When you're playing chords, if possible, you always, if you want a real full sound, you always want to play a chord with your right hand and also a chord with your left hand. The left hand will really fill in and like fill the gaps. So it's just depending on who you're playing with and what you're playing. There'll be times when you need to play the full chords, and then there'll be times when you just want to do some licks and fill in here and there. But really that's about it. This changes your tones. You have your Leslie on and off, which really, when the Leslie's on and you bring it up, it really creates a nice full sound.
Okay, so I just finished tracking drums for I Am My Beloved's. What a great song. So much fun. Oh my gosh. So much syncopation and rhythm. It's like a drummer's dream to play this song. It was really like, which syncopations do I want to hit at what time, you know? So I was going to walk you through the arrangement and talk through why I made certain musical decisions on the drum track. So let's just start. This thing, like I said before, is driven by the acoustic guitar. And as I said earlier, I want to leave space for that acoustic guitar. When you hear a lot of rhythm coming from another instrument, as a drummer, it's important to almost have like a rhythmic pie chart in front of you and go like, okay, if that instrument in 100%, right? If the pie is 100% and one of the instruments is taking up like 45% or 60%, like with this acoustic guitar part, check it out. That's a lot of rhythm. So I need to keep it very simple fill right here. Very straight beat. Now check it out. I do this signature every time. I left a lot of space. Boom, boom, ta-um. There's a lot of air in there, right? because I want to do that every time. Matter of fact, I did do that every time, and I did it intentionally. I wanted to leave this like back on, so that when you get to the downbeat of the verse, it's like, yeah, you know what I mean? It needs to have an emphasis. But the fill, if you do a fill or something, there's so much rhythm going on there. It's like, especially on a recording, it can take up too much space and it gets cluttered and it takes away from the musical experience. So I really want to emphasize and support the acoustic guitar and the vocal in all decisions that I'm making. So we get there. Now we're in the verse. This is a scratch vocal. Still in the verse. We're still in the verse. Now watch, I do the same turnaround with the signature thing for the pre-chorus. A little breathing room. Open the hat. So I open the hat, right? Just open the hat, keeping it very simple. And then follow rhythm. And then I'm following the acoustic. And then when it comes to the choruses, I'm not going to talk through every chorus. I'm not going to talk through the whole song because I don't want to keep this very long. But in the choruses, I developed the choruses by which syncopation I was going to hit. So at the beginning chorus, I hit a few of them. By the second chorus, a few more. Third chorus, a few more. By the very end choruses, it's just a lot of cymbals. And it was intentional because the cymbals give a specific energy. And so you have to be very careful. You have to be mindful of the cymbal color, the brightness, the darkness, which again, I chose, and I showed you that, my 18-inch crash and my 20-inch crash and my 24-inch Elite ride. I wanted a dry sound on the ride. I wanted really quick action crashes. So I picked those cymbals and those colors. So I want to use those and the energy that comes from the cymbals very selectively throughout the choruses to develop it. So when we get to the bridge, which was a lot of fun, bridge 1. All right, let me find that real quick. There's the chorus. Yeah, here we go. Here's the bridge. Bridge. I wanted the bridge to be tough. I'm a big Beatles fan, big Ringo Starr fan. I know Leonard is too. And there's something just about this guitar part that was like, go, God, go, God. It needed to be driving, but it needed to grow as well, right? We have a lot. This track is 6 minutes and it needs to stay interesting. And the drums are part of creating that energy and that excitement. And so it needs to be this like long, I just need to take my time with the dynamics. So on bridge 1, I'm like, floor tom, select a few of the hits, right? Again, just like the choruses, select some of the hits. And then just build to where the third time on the bridge, I go to open hats and now I'm cranking it out because I know that we're going to land and sort of reset into this whole other section where it kind of breaks down. Where it breaks down right here. And I was like, let's just start this with the kick drum. Right? It's like a reset, right? We're resetting the groove. I have the floor tom, get tough, right? Yeah. So I'm giving, if I was playing that live, I would absolutely want the guitar to have like that. I don't want to. I want the drums like people to get, just like, yeah, we're resetting, and that guitar is awesome. I want to leave space for the guitar to reset. And then just let that thing build. So if you notice, I go to the floor tom, then I start adding in this, then we go to a groove, and as the groove develops, I just open up the hat. And I save the ride cymbal for when we recapitulate to the double chorus. Notice that, right? So we come out, have that whole section, and then we're building, and then we go back to the choruses. So in bridge 2, I take the hi-hat and kind of develop off that. So it starts closed and just eventually opens. And I specifically saved the ride cymbal because that's what I play on the chorus. That gives the chorus this identifiable thing. So check it out. So we're ending the bridge 2. Go to the right cymbal. Right, I'm on the right cymbal. So there's some consistency there. Notice that on the drum grooves, right, there's a consistency. I did something different on the bridge, but there was development. The verses had this, closed hat, kick, snare, and then the chorus, I went to the ride cymbal with the syncopation. And then as you notice, when you get to the ending section, right, we get done. We go back to the outro. Right? So we go back to the kick, snare, and hat and sort of recapitulate that way. So I hope it's really helpful to talk about just the decisions that I made musically to support the song. Trying to find, okay, here's the sections of the songs and trying to find an identifiable part that when you go back to that section, this is the part. And then when you have that baseline part. So hopefully this helped you understand some of the musical decisions that I made for the drum track on I Am My Beloved's. Again, trying to find each section and create a part for each section and then develop those parts within each section as the track grows. I love playing the drums. I love having fast chops. I love drummers that have fast chops and can solo. But when it comes to tracking drums on songs and you're supplying a beat, it's really about finding the right grooves for each section of the song, finding the right sounds for that track. Again, as soon as I heard this track, I was like, I knew in my mind what snares and what toms. I have tons of snare drums and toms here in the studio that I can select from. So depending on what colors and sounds I'm hearing, along with the grooves I'm hearing, that's what makes a really good drum track. It's what supports the song. And a dear friend of mine used to say, just play the song. That's all drummers really need to do, just play the song. And that's going to make a really, really satisfying and very musically satisfying drum track. So hopefully this helped. All right, see you guys.
Hi, my name is Austin Beal, and I got to play keyboards on Leonard Jones's song, I Am My Beloved. And this video is to kind of unpack what I played, how I played it, why I played it. Hope it makes sense. So let's start off with the big picture of looking at the song and deciding what to play. When I look at a band, any kind of contemporary song, I think of 5 possible elements, but there's always 2 elements that are the primary ones, which is the melody, the main melody, somebody singing, and the anchor. And the anchor to me is usually the bass and drums that are setting up the harmony with the melody and providing the rhythm and the groove, of course. And a lot of contemporary songs, that's all you have and that's all you need. Maybe another instrument is playing something small to kind of help out the anchor, but it's basically just bass, drums, and vocal. But once you get past that and you look at what are the other instruments going to do, keyboards, guitars, and so forth, I always have this thing in my head I call meat, texture, and spice. And so meat, texture, and spice, I would break it down like the meat of the song is any instrument, usually keyboard or guitar, that is carrying the part of the song. It's providing the fundamental chords, it's giving the vibe and the groove and rhythm in with the anchor. And with Leonard's songs, he almost always is making the guitar part that he plays the meat of it. Like he could play the entire song by himself with just that guitar part. It's the meat, it's carrying it. And so then if I come in later and I'm listening to that, I'm going to come up with something else. I don't want to clash with the melody. I always want to either contrast it or support it. I don't want to clash with the anchor. I either want to contrast it or support it. And I also don't want to clash or with the meat. I want to contrast it or support it. And so after the meat, I think of the 2 terms texture and spice. So the texture might be something chordal or something sustained, something that gives the meat a different texture, but if you're not paying too close attention, you might miss that it's there, but it's just fattening and augmenting the meat that's already there. Whereas the spice element is something that might catch your ear and catch your attention. It might be a fill or some sort of sound or whatever. So meat, texture, spice is sort of the way I approach this thing. So the way this went down is Leonard played his guitar and vocal part as a guide. track that he would replace later, but something we could all play up against. The drummer plays his part, and then they send it to me. I added the bass part later in for this video, so you'll hear the bass now, but when I was playing it, recording it, I didn't have the bass. And I knew that other instruments were coming up later. So if I was playing just by myself with Leonard and the bass and drums, like a quartet, I would have played a lot more. But in this case, I knew other instruments were coming, so I wanted to give them space to do their thing. So I was a little more sparse in my approach in that way. So if we go back to the very beginning of the song and just start listening, Leonard's intro starts up his meat guitar part, which is establishing the whole song. So nothing really should clash with the meat. Everything should augment it as texture or spice, as far as I'm concerned. So I start hearing it, and I go, okay, he's got this pattern that's C, E flat F, 2 bars. He does it a second time, same pattern. Band comes in, third time, and fourth time. And this is also what happens on the verse. So I'm thinking I'll add a little spice here. So one of the things I do is right when the drums are coming in, I hit the keyboard like here or something like this up high, because it's not clashing with his melody, but I've got the volume off of the keyboard. So when I hit it, you don't hear it, but you see me hit it. I'm hitting it a couple of beats before the downbeat, and then I'm swelling it in with the volume knob like this. Yeah, so it's just like a piano swell, as a little spice. It may not even make the final mix, but that's what I did. It's in there kind of light. Maybe you can't hear it on the recording, but it's in there. And so now we're getting into the verse of the song, measure 5. So he's doing this same pattern 2 more times, this C, C, E flat F, and so forth. But if the verse is 16 measures long, okay, and he's got 2 lines of vocal, it's a line of vocal that's covering 6 measures and then a 2 measure break, and then he does it again, 6 measures and a 2 measure break. So during those 2 measures, I'm thinking I can add like a counter melodic thing, sort of like a call and answer. I don't really want to do anything else because the guitar has it. The guitar is covering everything you need. So I'm just looking at that whole. He's going, your love is dun, dun, na, 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 na. And then what I'm going to is during those 2 measure of whole, I'm thinking his vocal is 8th notes. His guitar and the hi-hat are like swung 16th notes. We're filling up all those rhythmic basses. And so I want to contrast it with half notes. And the chord E flat, sus2, I could do an E flat on the top. The chord F6 add 2, I can do a D on the top. And then end up with a C back when it repeats again before we start singing, right? And what that does is allows me to have this melody doo, 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 that's sort of contrasting and answering his melody. But hey, I'm a piano player, so I can give it some chords. And so the E flat 2, I give it this sort of open voicing, excuse me, that has the sus2 and the B flat that's kind of open, and then a tighter voicing of the F6 with the D on the top, and then contrasting that with an open C power chord the first time through. So it just gives like a nice open, closed, really open, but on top is the melody, doo, 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 and I'm going to try to mess with that motif development as I go further in the song. So the first time through, I just do that. Second time through, I'm going to do the same thing, but I end it differently because then we're heading to measure 5. So I'm going to go measure for the 4th time through. It's E flat, D on top. And now the next chord, measure 5, is D minor 13. Conveniently has a C in there. And he doesn't sing on the downbeat either, so it lets me finish my little melodic phrase. I'm still going, yeah, yeah. And now I can go, da, da. And that also happens to be the note that he's starting to sing. Okay, so now we finished the verse, and we're headed to the pre-chorus here at measure 5, D minor 13, E minor 7, F major 9. So all I want to do is be a texture. I want to fatten up his guitar part without clashing or contrasting with it. So for D minor 13, you know, E minor 7, and then F major 9. Now F major 9 just means F, A, C with a major 7 and a major 9, which could be also viewed as an A minor 7 over F, or a C triad F with a bonus note. And so after I hit the F major 9 for the first time here, I notice when I hit that chord on the downbeat that he's holding his vocal note throughout that chord. So there's sort of like a hole here, and I can fill to anticipate the punch on the and a 4. And I imagine the drummer is going to fill as well. But I can do something like hit the F major 7, F major 9 on the downbeat, 2, 3, and 4, and in that I can do a little arpeggio. I think I did C major triad, something like, and then I hit a cluster of the C major triad somewhere up top. I think it sounds like, yeah, so it sounds, I think it sounds a little like this. D minor, E minor, F major 9, now at this point you've got the F minor 11 that's going to set up the chorus at measure 9, right? And again, I'm thinking just texture chords to fill up the guitar part. And what's neat about this is F minor, I can put the 7 of the F minor on the top of my voice and go E flat on top, and then I could do G minor with a D on top, and then the A flat major 9 with the C on top, and that gets my little like E flat D C little motif development thing from earlier. I'm probably the only one in the world that cares about that, but it was fun for me to put that in there. So you've got F minor, G minor, A flat. I just sustain. I don't need to add that extra punch that he's got the bass and drums doing. They're cool. F minor, G minor, D minor with the C on top again with my little thing. F minor, G minor, A flat, F minor, G minor. First time is A flat and then A minor 7 over G, which I'm thinking of as just a C chord with an extra bonus note here. We go back to the top. And basically, once we go back to the top, I'm doing the same thing again. I think I do that swell thing again with the transition turnaround. I do the answer melodic thing in the verse, pre-chorus second time through, and chorus second time through, all the same. I'm just adding the chord texture in there. But now, after the second time through, we're going for like a repeated chorus, and now we're down measure 17 and the repeated chorus, and now we've already done the chorus twice. This is the third time we're hitting here. So I start adding a little bit of extra. I'll add a little bit of punch, and specifically that's kind of nice here, if you're looking at the F minor, G minor, A flat, all of those chords, that's all part of the E flat major scale, right? So I look at that and I feel like I'm in E flat major, or F Dorian, however you want to describe it. It's these notes, those are my note options, E flat major scale. And so when I see the F minor and the G minor and the A flat, I'm thinking of this A flat major 9 as a 4 chord. And I put in something I call passing chords. So a passing chord, or a neighbor chord, some people call it, is not changing the overall chord of the moment, which in this case would be A flat major 9. But while other instruments are playing the A flat and I'm playing the A flat at the beginning, I could then insert a B flat triad over A flat, and then back to A flat major 7 in the moment. So it's like F minor, G. So I'm thinking of that's A flat major, B flat over A flat major, because it's a neighbor chord. So I'm not changing the chord of the moment. I'm just adding a fill. I guess it's a harmonic fill as a way of putting it, right? And I'm also getting my little beep, beep, beep. There's my motif development, so I can go A flat, B flat over A flat, and I throw that in a couple of times just to give it a little extra love on these repeated choruses. So I think I go, I am my beloved and he is mine, and so forth. If that makes any sense. And so now we're heading to, after the second chorus, we're heading to the bridge here, measure 26. Now my thought process here is that I've been on piano for a while, and when I listen to the bridge of him going 1 and 4, 1 and he's doing this, and the bass and drums are going to switch to a pulse kind of thing. The groove is different. It's less about the 16th, and now it's more about the 8th, and we're digging deeper. And I felt like personal preference that in that moment, piano up against his guitar, I wasn't a fan of the flavor in that moment. So I switched over to a Rhodes sound, like this, yeah. And then I also felt like his guitar was still kind of in this area, but it's a thinner sound than this Rhodes, and this Rhodes makes it thicker. That's kind of, I think, why I tried to avoid the piano, is the piano still felt a little thin when we get to the bridge. And so, again, this might not even make the final mix, but I'm thinking, okay, maybe I can be a little bit thicker and more, and play some more stuff to contrast with my earlier sparseness and help the groove. So the key here was to make sure that I was helping the groove and not clashing with it. So I think he's basically playing 3, 4, 1, and 4, 1, and the bass is doing that and the drums as well. So I thought if I'm a little lower in the mix, I could get this little pulse going of eighth notes. 1, 2, ready, go, 1. So I'm just kind of creating a contrasting texture, and maybe that eighth note is kind of helping the groove bubble along with the anchor guys as well. But yeah, so I kind of did that throughout the verse and stayed mostly in this area of the frequency spectrum. Yeah, so let me play a little bit of that. Here's where the bridge starts. Now, I'm still keeping the punches and I'm still playing the chords the way he's playing it, and I'm accenting those, but I'm also playing like softer eighth notes in between, hoping it'll subtly, maybe even subconsciously, help the groove along a little bit. Okay, so now I'm looking at this kind of cool section at the end of the bridge, which is like here, top of page 2 on my chart, the page measure 30, where he's been repeating, but the last time through at measure 30, banner over me is love. And then he does an extra banner over me is love at measure 34 here, but now we do something different. So here, let me play it. So you can hear what I'm talking about. 30, 30, 31, 32, 33. Here's 34. G, F, and then E flat, D, D flat. Yeah, so what I'm doing there is I'm still doing the... Here's 32, 33, 34, 35, just nice fat chords. But then when I hit the D flat major 7, I'm hitting the chord a little bit with my left hand. Let me zoom out here. Can I get this shot there? Yeah. So I'm hitting this chord down here with my left hand, but I'm starting up here and kind of doing this 16th note. Just again, it's a fill, it's a spice thing, right? Something like that. And what I'm doing is I'm voiding the note D flat, but I'm looking at the chord D flat, F, A flat, C, and I can add a 9, maybe even add an 11. And so if you look at it again, this could look like an A flat major 7, even though the D flat's in the bass. So I'm actually thinking in my head a D flat chord down here, but I'm kind of doing this descending A flat major 7. I may have added a B flat in there too, Kim. Just to add those extensions as a little fill spice in there, right? Now, one more time, that sounds like this. Here it is, E flat, D minor, and the thing. Yeah. And so now we're looking at the outro where he kind of gets into this gospel funk, C, Hendrix chord kind of jam. And again, the guitar is still kind of the meat and is carrying things and he's doing fills. But now I want to go back to piano because I'm thinking I wanted to kind of, what I do play, I wanted to kind of stick through the band because everybody's going to be wailing. There's a B3, there's electric guitar, whatever else. Everybody's going to be wailing. And so I go to a piano, straight acoustic piano sound. I'm waiting a while before I come in, and then I'm just adding little texture, a little bit of a call and response riff here and there, because again, he's got the meat, and other instruments later are going to hit the textures. So let me just kind of fast forward here towards where I start playing a little bit. I just did a little piano, and then here's going to the F chord, 42. Little bit of spice, gospel. So let me explain that riff right there. So we're in the key of C, but it's dominant bluesy. And then when he goes to bar 42, he goes to the 4 chord, that bluesy thing. And he's got this cool guitar part going C, F, F7, F6, F7. And I thought for a while about trying to like add to that or augment it. And I was like, you know what? Let me stay away from it. Maybe electric guitar, somebody else will get that little motion in there. So what I did was I more than thought about the vocal. He goes, his banner, here's a hole I can fill. Over me, here's a fill. And on the over me line, which I think is measure 43, 44 here, somewhere in there on the F6. Yeah, then I do this F. Again, it's a passing chord kind of thing. So if this is the 4 chord of C, but I think of this as a temporary tonal center shift to 1, then I do the 4 of the F, which is B flat, common gospel thing. So like if you're in C, and you could just do a quick passing chord of F over C, C, or even, and I'm just applying that same idea here on the F chord. And then I'm going da-da, which is B flat over F to F. I do it fast enough that it doesn't clash with everybody else's thing. And it's just a little thing in there. Let me play that. 43, 44, da-dum. And I keep going with stuff like that. I get a little busier as the band builds. And again, that's this, and that's again these passing chords, C, F over C, headed up to the dominant, and I'm making the da-na-na-na melody on the top, ba-da-do-da-da-da, and I'm just messing around with that. And then when we go back to the F minor for the outro, I go back to my E flat on the top, D, C, A flat business, right? And in the song, just a totally cool song. I would love it if you'd email me if you have any questions about anything that I said. I could probably go a few more layers deeper, but I think this is enough.
Okay, this is the instructional part of the acoustic guitar part of I Am My Beloved's. The first thing you have to do is tune your E string down to a C. So I've already got mine tuned down. You just take your E, this bottom string, take it down to a C. So it matches that note there. And then there's really, the only way you can play this song is to finger pick it. I use pretty much all these, my thumb and these 3 fingers. These thumb and these 3 fingers. And my first chord is kind of like it's kind of like an F2, and then E, C, like E, G, C, and then like normally this would be a G, and there's a F, B flat, E flat, right? G, A, D, and this is normally would be called an A. So. Notice, so a lot of times I'm kind of hitting the backbeat with my thumb, like, So up to speed, that's like this. Alright, so those are like, I'm using dot, 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 those fingers. Alright, and then my channel chords are like, this would normally be a F sharp, but it's not. F, A, G, C. Like a G sharp normally. G natural, yeah, G natural, 2 G's, D. And then, so second finger, third finger, first finger, fourth finger. And I keep my hands sort of in that position so that I can get to my next chord. I just kind of move my fingers around. I'm just going to name these the way they are on the guitar. This is an A, G sharp, A sharp, D sharp, G. Take that about a whole step, and then I reshape my hand for this next chord. So it's 2, 3, 1, 4. Okay, so that's like. And then that first chord. So second finger, F, G, C. Then I do those chords again. So this chord is on, it's like a B, A, C, G, and an open E. And then that whole thing repeats. Channel. So sometimes on these I up pick, I go like this. Second time I go to a C. And then I repeat that whole section. To get to my next section, I just bring these two fingers down. So I'm bringing this to this. And then I do a thing called a pedal bass where I'm going like this. And over that I'm going like. So that's basically like an A, it's like a G, B flat, E flat, and then just a regular bar chord, B flat. And then I'll open. So these chords are the same, with different bass notes. That's the chord I did before. There's 3, 4, 1, 2, and then this note. This is hitting this at the same time. Then bring this down, have a whole step, and then. It's like 1, and then skip the A string, F, A, D, and then, so first fret, F, A flat, C, F, and then I do an E augmented 9. But here I start doing kind of a bass thing where you just hit the low string with your thumb. Kind of right around there. And I'm doing like a hit in this and hammer on. And later on I do something like walk up in octaves. Like that. And then I do better. Push. So then that's and then I go back at this at the end. Push that last chord. So whenever you see or hear that phrase push, it's usually that you hit the note before the beat, like 1, 2, 3, 4, ba, 2, 3, 4, ba. That's a push. There's also a delay where you go 1, 2, 3, 4, ba, where you come in after the first beat, but that's not called a push. It's called a hesitation. So here we go. That's how to play this song. So the chords are. Then the next section. And then the chorus. And then there's the section where you're going. And it does that 4 times, and then the last time it's like this. And then you get into this part. So when you're doing this part, make sure you keep that funky thing going, like. little lick. So you're doing the thing, and then you can give yourself a little space and do some licks, you know, like or. There's also this. So all kinds of little tricks you can do. One of the things that's really nice on if you're playing, this is sort of a jazzy song, are these stacked fourths. So like. There's all kinds of little things you can do that to make the song interesting, and it's just have fun when you're worshiping God. He likes you to have fun.
Hello there, this is Gary Lunn. I'm going to try and talk today a little bit about Beloved, the song that Leonard Jones wrote that I played bass on. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I came up with the bass part for particular parts, etc. So the song is very John Mayer-esque. So it's kind of, the notes are funky and short. The key to playing shorter notes is consistency, so that you always have that same note length when you're playing that short note style. They've all got to be the same length. So that's something that if you don't think about the note length and the note volumes, it cannot feel very good. So the kick pattern that Al did was very basic, very 1 and 3, and so I'm just hitting short notes and downbeats with him. So here's right at the intro. And here's the verse. One thing that's really important to do is to indicate phrase changes. So whenever, like, we're going into the verse, I don't know if you noticed, I did a little turn of the phrase, if you want to put it that way. Or I kind of went ba-doo-da-doo, little thing. So just to indicate the beginning of the verse, so that helps keep the band together. Like a rose resting high. Pre-chorus. So I changed my note lengths a little bit, make them a little bit longer in anticipation of the chorus. And it's an ascending chord progression, so I'm kind of following that whole thing. So. So it's very important for me to know exactly what the drummer is going to do with his kick drum. So, so I'm hitting all those notes with him, and so I've got to be just slightly tucked in behind him so that the bass drum will speak for me. So that's kind of my motto, the way I like to play. I let the bass drum speak for me, let it be the point, and then the note be the foundation. So. Moving on. 2/4 bar, 2, 3, 4. And here's the turnaround. So I'm going to turn around and I go back to the short notes, as you notice. Again, there's a little turn of the phrase that I make happen with a little bass lick. We're in the second verse. So it's the same as the first verse. Pre-chorus, longer notes. So this chorus is going to be a little bit busier because it's bigger dynamically. So first chorus is always typically something more basic, more meat and potatoes, not any flash, just setting up the chord structure, etc. So. Comes the repeat chorus. I was kind of inspired to do a little bass lick there. Alrighty, here's the bass lick at 2:15. 1, 2, 3. It's a simple pentatonic run leading up to the leading tone into the F minor, which is an E natural. So 3, 4, even slower. And I'm hammering on a lot of notes, so it's hammer, 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 slide, hammer, pull off, and these are plucked. Okay, this feel right here in Nashville, we call that a lope, which is kind of like a horse going like a horse trot. It's kind of a lope. So it's the notes are like short, long, short, long. Like I'll be solo it and show it to you. Three, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's it's kind of like it's a cross between a long eighth note feel and a short eighth note feel. So it kind of has both, but you have to do it consistent, like I was talking about earlier. The note lengths have to be consistent. So here, like the drum, bass and drums here. The lick at 2:35 is basically spelling a dominant seventh chord over a C, but I'm leaving out the fifth, so that's kind of something I like to do a lot. Drummer and I are interacting, even though we never really played together on this song. How do we do that? So anyhow, we're just building the section. A lot of anticipations, a lot of pushes. So I'm having to catch all of those. So it's not exactly your straight ahead worship song. It's more involved, a lot of intricate rhythms and that kind of thing. So you have to really pay attention. Then it comes down for a little turnaround before the second bridge. Leonard sets up this lick. Oh, dude, it's really cool. And I'm just catching the off, space, off. those kind of things. It makes a difference. Putting space where it's needed. Now I'm going back to the lobe feel. Kind of the lobe feel meets James Brown. That drum feel and the guitar part that's doing that's kind of like a sort of a James Brown sort of a that kind of a James Brown sort of a feel. So I'm going between the lobe feel and sort of James Brown lines just a little bit. She's kind of an R&B-ish section. So it kind of goes on. James Brown section. and now let's go on back to the comes the chorus. At 4 minutes. 3, 4. Here's the run at 4:45. Open D string. Here's right before the outro. Back to the short notes. Anyway, have fun playing this.
Well, I really hope that you guys enjoyed that. Aren't those musicians spectacular? They're such artists in their own right. They all love the Lord. They all know how to teach and play music. And if you're interested in going further in this song, you can download a PDF of the chart. You can also download an analyzation where I analyze the song from front to back, all the way from the key signature down to the rhyme scheme. And you can also download the lyrics. And if you're interested in the school, you can just see down at the bottom and they will give you information. We'll send you an application. It's a 1-year school, 3 semesters a year. And you will actually really learn everything there is to learn about music. You will learn how to write music. You'll learn how to play music. You'll learn how to worship God in excellence. And God really is looking for, He's not so much looking for musicians nowadays. He's looking for musicianaries, people that want to bring Him into the world through music and through worship. And so that's what we are looking to raise up here at CFAN is musicianaries. And we would like you to become one of them.